Hi, everybody. It's Jeff, and welcome to our Tuesday night live stream. With us is Jill, our producer, who's going to help us navigate all of the questions. Hello, Jill, and welcome back for another Tuesday live stream. I'm going to start off by reading a disclaimer, which is required by the state of New York. Many of the questions we cover here are nuanced. We do our best to answer them, but our responses are meant to be directional, not exact. Your situation may require more details than we can give in a live stream. Therefore, this live stream is for educational purposes only. We haven't had the chance to speak with you one-on-one, so please treat this information as general guidance, not advice to act on. For anything specific to your situation, please make sure you talk with a qualified professional. Speaking of qualified professionals, if you have questions about Medicare, give our trusted partner a chapter call, 440-703-1224, to see if they can help. I will put their phone number up here so that you have it in case you need it at a point later. Actually, we'll put the old one up because it's a little bit bigger. Having said that, why don't I pass it over to you, Jill, to lead the way.
Thank you, Jeff. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. As usual, I think many of you know the drill. Put your questions into the chat box, Social Security questions tonight. Put them into the chat box, and we will take those questions live. Also, we have many questions that were emailed in, so we will go back and forth between emailed questions and live questions. Welcome, Ron Knows Stuff. He says he is 64 and a quarter. So that's a really good time to be here for this kind of information. So welcome. And Wanda, hello. Glad you're here. All right. Scott Holt has a question, the first question of the evening. When you sell stocks, does that bump up your earnings to give you a higher year's earnings that Social Security will use for your top 35 years?
No, Social Security is based on taxes you pay on Social Security. And so the taxes you pay are basically for income that you earn or income from being self-employed or your employer contribution, if you're talking about the money that you earn from a job. Selling stocks doesn't contribute to Social Security, therefore it doesn't increase your either your contribution requirement or the size of your Social Security payment. Doesn't mean that you won't owe taxes on those sales. That's a completely different issue. But when it comes to Social Security, it's all about Social Security taxes.
All right, great. So Ron Knows Stuff has a question or wants your thoughts. I plan on retiring when I turn 65. I will have a pension as well as IRAs and the house paid off. I plan on taking Social Security at 65 as well. Thoughts?
Sounds like you're set up in a pretty good position. The only thing I would say,
Oh, and he has zero debt, by the way. Okay.
Even better. The only thing I would say, Ron, is just a lot of times claiming Social Security isn't about maximizing every dollar. There used to be a break-even chart on the Social Security website, and it showed when you would break even based on longevity. It took that down 20 or 30 years ago because they realized at the time, I would imagine, that people make decisions about Social Security for a lot of different reasons. Still, a lot of people want to maximize every dollar. Others want to maximize the survivor benefit, which would suggest that you wait longer. Others don't need the money. They want to enjoy retirement as soon as they go into retirement. And so therefore they take it as soon as they go in, and that's fine too. Understand that really the decision about Social Security, the one universal rule I would say about Social Security is that your decision to claim shouldn't be based on when somebody else claims and only when somebody else claims, because their situation is different than yours. And if you were to ever see my course, Social Security Simplified, we did a lot of work before we put that course together. I think if I got paid per hour for that course, I'd be below minimum wage. But one of the things that we did is we had discussions with a whole army of people who basically tested the course before we ever launched it. We interviewed them and we talked about what they liked, what they didn't like, what we could do better, what their own personal situations were. And by and large, There was no specific situation where everybody had the same view on when they should take it, but almost everybody had somebody, a friend or a family member, telling them what to do, and with no information about their finances. So just be careful doing what somebody else does. Outside of that, just do a lot of analysis and understand what is most important to you.
All right, great. And since you mentioned Social Security Simplified, for anyone that is interested in checking out that course, I did put the link into the chat box. And so that link, hopefully it is there. It says something that it didn't go in, but I believe
No,
it
it's
is. It is? Okay,
Sure.
great. And so it tells you what to do, and then you will get $60 off if you just put in the coupon code that is in there. All right, let's take a question that was emailed in. And that question is from JKRK. Should I claim Social Security at full retirement age or claim earlier and invest the payments? Also, what do longevity statistics say for couples our age?
Well, so this goes back to the previous question, and it is an individual decision. It's not going to be based on the numbers specifically if that's not what's important to you. A lot of it depends on what you have saved, what you're trying to protect against, etc. In terms of longevity, a couple, there's a good chance, according to the numbers, that at least one of the two is going to live into their 90s, which makes the survivor benefit a very important component to consider anyway. And you can maximize the survivor benefit as the primary earner by waiting longer versus shorter.
Okay. Aka has a question. What is the outlook for Social Security solvency and anticipated adjustments by 2032?
Yep. So this question is going to come up a lot tonight, and that's because the Social Security trustee report just came out. And basically, the report said that the trust, if nothing is done, will run out of funds by the fourth quarter of 2032, 1 month earlier than last year's report. So the message is basically the same there or thereabouts. It also goes on to say, but there's a lot that people can do. I want to frame this because it's really important. My belief, and this is an educated belief, but it's not a guarantee by any means, is that the politicians will come together and probably do something like either raise taxes on the general population by 0.75% Social Security taxes, or they'll create a donut, or they'll take the top end off of Social Security. There's a lot that can be done. There are 70.5 million people that receive some form of Social Security. Imagine what happens if 70.5 million people get a 28% cut, and almost 30% of that group relies on Social Security as their sole source of income. And those people got a 28% cut. All of a sudden, you've got a huge problem. 28%, 27%, 30%, let's call it, of 70 million people are going to be calling their kids, at least saying, I'm moving back home, or something else is going to happen. I think it's highly unlikely. And the reason I think it's highly unlikely is because both political parties have stated very publicly that they're behind Social Security and they don't want to have any issues with Social Security. It's sacrosanct. Those were the terms that both parties used. And this isn't a political channel, but this also doesn't appear to be a political issue. And so I would say, the only thing I would say is that I don't think it's going to get fixed this election cycle with the current people in the seats now, because there's no need to fix it before 2032. The last time it got fixed was very similar to this. It was 1983. There was 2 months of solvency left in the trust. Not solvency. There was 2 months of excess left in the trust, and then it was going to go into dollar in, dollar out, and the payments were going to be cut. It was dealt with 2 months before. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see a huge difference. It might happen at the beginning of the next election cycle, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in this cycle. That's a fairly educated view, and I think a lot of people share that view.
All right, Clayalda is asking, do you have to accept Social Security money in order to receive Medicare? I'm in a situation where my mother is Medicare but doesn't want to lose her Medicare because she is under home care.
Medicare and Social Security are linked a couple of different ways. The first is that it's the same general agency or group of people that they're intertwined. Your Medicare payment comes out of your Social Security payment, but you can also make your Medicare payment directly. You don't need to make it from your Social Security payment. And a lot of people wait until age 70 before they claim Social Security. So now you don't have to be taking Social Security to receive Medicare. I guess the bigger question is if there's something in there that I don't understand. There's something in that statement that I don't understand, because there's usually when you hear something and you either know it's a complete message or not because of what's said or what's not said, there's something not said there. But just the general question of do I need to be on Social Security to receive Medicare or to have Medicare? The answer is no.
Okay. Mike Jackson is asking, I'm retired and wanting to claim Social Security at 70 in about 2 years. What happens to my Social Security if I don't make it age 70? Would my Social Security at age 70 go to my wife, or the Social Security at age when I check out goes to her?
When you check out. So the way that the survivor benefit works is that if you haven't claimed Social Security and you're under full retirement age and you check out, the SSA will give you the benefit of the doubt, and they'll assume that you are at full retirement age. So you'll have 100% of your full retirement age payment available to your spouse, haircut for her age. And so if she's under full retirement age, that 100% is going to be reduced. If you're over full retirement age, which you haven't claimed yet, the date that you pass is the date that the SSA assumes you would have filed. And so if you're 69 in 10 months, then the amount that you would receive at 69 in 10 months becomes the amount that is the basis for what your survivor can claim on a survivor benefit. It's hopefully that's not an issue for you, but just know that the SSA measures the payment on a monthly basis, not an annual basis. So you don't have to take it in a whole year. You can take it at 68 in 10 months. You can take it at 69 in 2 months. And each additional month adds a little bit more to the Social Security payment.
All right, Bob Sulliway has a question. I took a low Social Security check at 65.5. And when my wife retires at 68, I'm planning on wanting to get half of my wife's much higher Social Security check. Is that a doable plan?
You can qualify for the spousal benefit, which is 50% of your partner's Social Security payment. But because you claimed early, that means that you didn't get 100% of your own benefit, but you started drawing Social Security. And let's just say that your own benefit was 1,000, but at 65.5, it was 900. Then you were short $100 of what you would have got at full retirement age. That same $100 comes off of more or less your spousal benefit if you claim the spousal benefit at your own full retirement age. So it gets reduced a bit. 65.5 isn't nearly as bad as what I usually see is 62. And at 62, that's a 30% reduction in your own benefit. Using that same example, $1,000 of your own benefit would be reduced to $700. That's $300 less, and that $300 more or less carries on to the spousal benefit reduction.
All right, great. So Malia is asking, if this is an emailed question, Will IRMA be based on income from 2 years before age 65 or 2 years before my Part B coverage begins?
So your income related monthly adjustment amount is based on when you start paying Part B. So it would be 2 years from when you start receiving Part B. So if you started receiving Medicare Part B at age 66 because you're working for an employer that has a creditable plan, which is 20 or more employees, then it's 2 years from that point. So 64 in that example.
All right. And Julie has an IRMA question as well, emailed. A severance package triggered IRMA 2 years later. Will the higher premium continue forever?
No, it's a one-time thing. And interestingly, there was a very astute question that was asked a few live streams ago. Someone said, "Okay, if I want to avoid, I had a big year when I was 63, and I know I'm going to have to pay the maximum IRMA surcharge when I retire at 65. But I turned 65 in November, and so does that mean that it's November to November?" The answer is no. That person had November and December in terms of IRMA surcharges for those 2 months, and then it rolled off its calendar year. So it's an important distinction. When everybody's thinking about IRMA, they're thinking about 1 year. Oftentimes it's not 1 year. Oftentimes it's 6 months or 2 months or 3 months. It's calendar year. And it rolls off at the end of that year, unless you have another big year. In this case, it's 64. Then you'd be facing something similar at 66. So it's always based on your income from 2 years prior.
All right. Rob Sabata is asking, wages are indexed to today's value and highest 35 years are used for Social Security benefit. I heard that indexing stops at age 60.2. Question, how is this fair to have up to 10 years with no indexing?
Yeah, when indexing stops at age 60, not 60.2. But yes, it is a valid point, because when your multiplier is for your income in 1986, for example, was a 4.0 this year, if this is the year you reach 60, and your income from this year is a 1.0, then all of a sudden you're sitting in a situation where, wait a minute, I've got a 1.0 multiplier on my income, but 5 years from now, if I'm still working, that multiplier won't represent what today's spending is. But there is an offset. That offset is the cost of living adjustment. And when you reach Social Security age, 62 for most of you, every year you have a cost of living adjustment from that point forward. And that happens whether you're taking Social Security or not. So you lose it in your wage index, but you pick it up in the form of a higher Social Security payment adjusted for the cost of living adjustment. Even if you don't claim it, you get both the adjustment for waiting, and you get the cost of living adjustment. So you have about a 2-year bogey there, a 2-year window where it's 1.0 and nothing happens.
Okay, and a part 2 to that question from Rob is, are the more current indexing values used during the time from age 60 until claiming to get a more accurate value?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Would you repeat that again?
Are the more current indexing values used during the time from age 60 until claiming to get a more accurate value?
No, there's nothing after 60 that's used in the calculation of the payment for wage indexing. It just switches to the cost of living adjustment from 62 onward.
Okay. Trem Seagriff is asking, I'm 65, retiring end of November and before December 1. Does that bypass any penalties and allow me to receive my full estimated monthly check, about $2,500 for December? Is that correct?
Well, if you retire at the end of November, it means you start receiving Social Security in December. And so you get the full monthly check in December, but know that Social Security is paid in arrears. So you won't receive that until January. It'll be for December, but you won't receive it until January.
Okay, let's take an emailed question from Mary. Should I claim Social Security at full retirement age while continuing to work for another year?
It's feasible. The people do it, and this is a very nuanced question, because normally, if this was any time except for full retirement age or later, you'd have an issue, which is you'd have to give part of it back to the SSA. You'd have an earnings limit, but once you reach full retirement age, there is no earnings limit, and so therefore you can continue to work and collect Social Security. You can make $1 million a year and collect Social Security. There's no earnings limit, so you don't have to give any of it back. And at the same time, you have the earnings that you have from full retirement age forward as a potential add-on to your best 35 years. You may not be your best 35 years, but it may be. The only thing I would say is compare that benefit, if you're looking at maximizing your Social Security payment, to waiting another year. Because if you wait another year, it's an 8% increase, and it would be unlikely that the amount that you earn during that last year would be enough to increase your Social Security payment by the full 8%. Especially you're talking about your best 35 years, that means that this will have a 1/35th contribution to the size of your Social Security payment maximum.
All right, Jeff is asking, if I claim at 67 and die at 68, will my wife receive my benefit amount?
Yes, your wife will get your age 67 benefit amount, but if your wife is younger than full retirement age, it will be reduced for her own age. I have a wonderful free giveaway, and I talk about it on the live stream all the time. It is called my Social Security Quick Guide. And on the right-hand side here, left-hand side as you're looking at it, there's the percentage of benefit you get at your primary insurance amount, the spousal benefit, and the survivor benefit. And there are different numbers across every row. And the survivor benefit number shows that if, let's just say your wife was 62 and you were 67 and your wife claimed the survivor benefit, she gets 79.6% of your 100% because she's 62. If she were 67, she'd get 100% of that, assuming the full retirement age of 100%. So it is reduced for the age of your spouse.
Okay, next question comes from Jeff in Florida. Without going too deep, if I'm going on 65 this year and don't plan to take Social Security until full retirement age at 67, when can my ex-spouse of more than 10 years take Social Security, and what would she get? She's 1 year younger.
I'm sorry, you faded out. Would you repeat that?
Yes, of course. Without going too deep, if I'm going on 65 this year and don't plan to take Social Security until full retirement age at 67, when can my ex-spouse of more than 10 years take Social Security, and what would she get? She's 1 year younger.
Right. Well, first of all, the spousal benefit and the divorced spouse benefit are based on the age of the spouse, not on the primary insurance amount of you. So if you claimed at 62 or 67 or 70, they're going to get a percentage of your primary insurance amount. Now, if you were married, your spouse would have to wait until you claimed, because to unlock the spousal benefit, you'd have to go first. The divorced spouse doesn't have that constraint as long as she's been divorced from you for 2 years or longer. So if she's been divorced for 2 years or longer, then she gets the full spousal benefit. If she claims early, then she's going to have a reduction. If she claims at her own full retirement age, then she'll get 100% of her 50%.
Okay, Wanda has emailed in a question. Will my tax-exempt caregiver payments count as income if I claim Social Security at 62?
Generally, tax-exempt Medicare waiver caregiver payments are not counted as earnings for Social Security, as a general rule. The exact treatment is going to depend on the nature of the payments and how you're making them. But if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, the answer is it's unlikely.
Okay, Kevin's asking, I have VA healthcare. This is an email question as well. I have VA healthcare. Is it okay to delay Medicare Part B?
It is. So first of all, there are two questions here. One is there are some people that love their VA coverage and they're saying this is what I'm going to have, and you could be faced with. So nobody's required to take Medicare Part B. No one requires you to take Medicare. It's not a thing. But if you decide that you want to delay Medicare Part B because you have coverage at the VA and later decide that you want to enroll in Medicare, you could be facing Part B penalties for late enrollment because that's not creditable insurance according to the rules. This is different than TRICARE, but I'm talking about specifically about the VA.
All right, Gordon has a question. It's actually 3 questions. Why does my wife's PIA keep increasing even though she stopped working in 2016?
The PIA stands for primary insurance amount, and that is the amount that someone receives from Social Security when they reach their full retirement age. If they haven't drawn it, then if they take it at full retirement age, they get 100% of their primary insurance amount. That's the number that we keep talking about. If you take it early, you get less. If you take it late, you get more. Well, the benchmark is your primary insurance amount. So if she takes it at age 70, she's going to get 124% of that amount if she reaches forward, if her full retirement age is age 67. The reason it keeps going up, if the question is she's already receiving it and it keeps going up, that's the cost of living adjustment. If the question is you're looking at your Social Security statement and it keeps going up, that's also the cost of living adjustment. And so in both instances, it's probably her cost of living adjustment.
Okay, the second question then is, will the maximum Social Security benefit increase again next year?
Probably. The maximum Social Security benefit is based on, loosely, it is based on the maximum amount someone can contribute. And in 2026, for example, that is $184,500, up from $176,100 in 2025. And if every year someone were to reach that maximum, and every year there's at least 1% of the population that maxes out and goes way beyond that number, if they do it for 35 years, that is the maximum Social Security payment. And so the only thing that changes that is that the cost of living adjustment gets added to it. And so every year it goes up at least by COLA. And so it is probable that it'll go up again in 2027.
All right. And then Gordon's third question was, can someone wait until 70 and a half, take 6 months of retroactive benefits, and still receive the full age 70 benefit?
No, if you take retroactive benefits at 70 and a half, you're not gonna hit the 70 mark. You'll get close, but you won't hit the 70 mark. It's a weird quirk in the Social Security Administration, but I would just file for Social Security at age 70 and just start taking it then.
Okay. 369 Dark Knight is asking, I'm 62 years old. I retired from my job of 35 years several months ago, but I'm not eligible for Social Security. I am 1/4 short. If I work longer than the amount needed, does my amount increase?
Well, first of all, if you're 1/4 short, you better get that 1/4 in. There's no question about that. So, gang, what this means, this question is it is one that comes up a lot more than you think. The SSA will you don't qualify for a payment from the Social Security Administration unless you've worked basically 40 quarters, 10 years. You don't have to work them all at one time, and during those 40 quarters you have to earn a certain amount of money per quarter, but if you reach the 40 quarters, then you qualify. And then the rest of Social Security kicks in, and the payment determination is based on how much you earned and contributed to Social Security. You can take two people. One, let's just say that they were the world's greatest lawyer and they earned $1 million a year for basically for 8 years and 9 months, 8 years and 11 months. Made a tremendous amount of money. They made, say, $300,000 a year, and they stopped. And then you have somebody else who made $30,000 a year for 10 years, but they went for 30 years. Well, the person who was making $300,000 a year for 9 years would have made $2.7 million. The person who made $30,000 a year for 30 years would have made, I think that's $900,000. The person who made $900,000 is going to qualify for a Social Security payment. The person who made $2.7 million is not. And that's because of this rule that says you need to have worked for 10 years, 40 credits. So if you're 1/4 short, I would get a part-time job and get that quarter in and do it as soon as you can. And then once you're over the 40 credit mark, then you can make other decisions. But I would say if job one isn't getting that last credit, it's probably right up there because you don't want to miss it by one.
So Maya Dragon is asking.
No. I'm sorry. They caught you out on that one before. We'll just call it M.
M Dragon.
M Dragon.
But he's questioning the last question. If he worked for 35 years, how come he doesn't have 40 quarters?
Maybe he worked part-time. Maybe he wasn't he didn't hit the minimums. I don't know. It's a different question, but it's not something that we really can address here.
Okay. Lise has a question emailed in. If I claim at 65 for $3,000, will my wife receive the full $3,000 survivor benefit if I die?
As long as your wife files for the survivor benefit at her own primary insurance, at her own full retirement age. And we've been talking about 67 is the age, but it's going to be different if she reached full retirement age 10 years ago than it would be today. But starting next year, it's 67 for everybody.
Okay. All right. Next question is from John. John's asking, how likely is means testing for Social Security, and would it affect current retirees?
Is it likely? I don't think so. Is it one of the solutions people are talking about? Sure. The problem with anything, so if you look at Social Security, the way that it's structured now is if you earn a certain amount of money, you're going to get a very large portion of that back. And then the next bit of earnings, you get less. And the next bit of earnings, you get less. So if you're already up there and you're earning $184,500 a year, well, you're going to have hit these benchmarks, and you're already getting very little back from the last 50% of your contribution. So now you're going to go back and say, okay, person number one got 90% of everything that they contributed back in terms of their averaged index monthly earnings. Person number two made a tremendous amount of money, and they got 90% of the first 10% of their earnings, 32% of the next 30% of their earnings, and 15% of the next 60% of their earnings. Now all of a sudden you're going to take that same person, you're going to say, now we're going to cut you back even further. I think it's unlikely, and I don't have a view on this, gang, by the way, but I'm just, the question is an intellectual one. It's also a very political one, but it's an intellectual one, which is someone who has arranged their lives so that they have a lot of money in retirement. Should they be penalized? And so you're going to have two sides to this argument. And side one is going to say, I've already been penalized because I'm getting 15% of my contribution, most of my contribution, and others are getting 90%. But the second argument is that there are a lot of ways to look at this, and a lot of ways to manage this, and this is just one way. Means testing has been in the press a lot lately, and I'll tell you just anecdotally, when you see something in the press, what ends up happening is that when one publication picks it up, another one picks it up, and another one picks it up, and another one picks it up, and all of a sudden it becomes a really big news story, and maybe one politician might have mentioned it, and it sets this cascade effect. But there are a lot of different options that can fix the Social Security problem. Means testing is one, the donut's another. A third is just take the cap off. A fourth is to raise the Social Security tax by 0.2%, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of ways to deal with it. To slowly raise the full retirement age in the distant future, but means testing is just one way of doing it.
Okay, next question comes from Gary. He's asking, I work 6 months, retire, then claim Social Security. Will the earnings reduce my Social Security?
No, because you're earning before you claim. So this is a common misconception when it comes to working while collecting Social Security. In the year that you retire, the vast majority of people don't retire on December 31st. They don't have a clean slate on January 1st. And the reason, I mean, to be completely candid, is a lot of people get laid off. And so you could get laid off on the 31st of December. I think employers try not to do that around that time of year. But more likely what's going to happen is it happens 6 months into retirement, or 3 months into 6 months into the year, 3 months into the year. And so you've earned all this money, and let's just say that you earned $44,800 and you retire. Well, that's already $20,000 over the $24,480 limit. Does that mean you have to give back $10,000 from your future earnings of Social Security? No, it doesn't. The test starts when you retire, and it's measured monthly for the first year. After that, it becomes an annual test, but they're not going to retroactively go back and look at what you've already earned and say, aha, we got you. You earned this before you start collecting Social Security, but this year you're at $44,480. Therefore, you owe us $10,000. That's not going to happen. That's not the intent of the test. That's not the spirit of the test, and the way it's structured, it won't happen.
Okay, so Gary also, same situation, work 6 months, retire, then claim Social Security. Will those earnings affect taxation of Social Security? And what are the watchouts?
Now that's a different story. Yes, because taxation of Social Security is based on a specific formula, and that formula is called provisional income. And it's your adjusted gross income, basically anything that you report on your tax return that's taxable, plus 1/2 of your Social Security payment, plus your tax-free income, muni bonds or a muni bond fund. it would fall into that category. You add all of that up together, and if it goes beyond certain thresholds, then a portion of your Social Security could be taxable. Now, the could be taxable and taxed are two different things. There's a lot that could be taxable. Your earnings from your employer could be taxable, but if you have a lot of tax deductions, then the taxability of those earnings goes way down. Same thing with Social Security. If you have enough deductions, then you won't be paying tax on Social Security. In fact, the statistics are that 80% of people who are receiving Social Security pay little to no tax at all. The other 20% pay the majority of the tax. And so if that's the case, then it's unlikely that 80% of the people out there will be paying tax on Social Security.
All right. Terry Owen wants to know if working in the military accounts for credits towards Social Security. He served for 8 years and so wants to know if he'll receive credits for that for Social Security.
Yeah, my dad was in the military, and he gets a full Social Security payment and full military benefits, and so there's not much more to say outside of that.
Okay, great. Jeff is asking, will means testing be part of Social Security reform?
I think we just answered that question, and I will also highlight the fact that when we answered that question, I said when one agency or one news outlet reports it, they all start reporting it, and so that's why it's starting to come up again. Last week it was something else. The week before that it was something else, but it is unlikely. It's possible, sure, but there are a lot of ways to fix the 2032 problem.
Okay, and would current retirees be affected?
Well, you have to assume that, number one, you have to assume that means testing is a methodology, and number two, you have to assume that defined in that methodology is anybody that is currently receiving Social Security. Neither one of those is true, and so I can't predict if they decided to means test whether they'd go retroactive back to people who are receiving Social Security. It would seem unlikely to both, though.
Okay. Ron. Wait, let's see. Where did this just moving very quickly? Okay, Jeff Florida wants to know how he can listen to this live after it's over. His question, you answered his question, and apparently it went to a commercial, and he wants to re-listen. How can he get access?
Just come back to the site, my Holy Schmidt page here on YouTube, or whichever platform you're on. A lot of you are on YouTube, others are on other social media platforms watching this. We're multicast, and it'll be there for you to review. Give it about 10 minutes, though. I think it takes a bit of time to process.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Pamela Davis is asking, do you have any updates on the congressional proposal to do away with Social Security's earnings test?
Yeah, so this is interesting because this is something we talked about a few weeks ago, and it hasn't. At the time it was in the Ways and Means Committee of the Senate, and there was a question whether it was even going to get proposed or not. For those of you that follow this sort of stuff, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But there will be, much like we're talking about with the means test, there will be a group of politicians that sponsor an idea, and they'll put the idea through the system, and they'll want to give it momentum. So what they'll do is they'll announce it. They'll say, hey, we just put this out there. We'd like to get the support of anybody that thinks this is a good idea. And a lot of times those ideas don't get off the ground. In fact, I would say 99 out of 100 of them don't get off the ground. And so do I think it's a good idea? It's seems like a fair idea, but it will create more of a problem for Social Security than we already have. But one of the issues I've always had with the way the structure works now is people approaching retirement age already have it tough trying to keep their job, and people are indiscriminate about layoffs, and some of the first to go are usually the highest earners. The highest earners are usually the most senior people in the organization. And so if you can not encourage that, somebody can actually, if they're able to keep their job, then should they be penalized if they want to file for Social Security? I'm mixed on it, to be candid, but whether that's a good idea or a bad idea, it hasn't reached the point where it's actually happening yet.
Okay, Kenneth is asking, what happens if I return to work after claiming Social Security at age 70?
If you go back to work after claiming Social Security at age 70, nothing. I mean, you have both. Once you reach full retirement age, you can earn as much as you want, and there's no give back. The only thing that might happen is your payment could go up, I suppose, because your payment's based on your best 35 years of earnings. And if you happen to have a great earnings year when you're 71, 72, 73, and you had lousy earnings years during the first 20 years of your career, well, maybe you replace bad earning years with good earning years, and you'll get a bump up then.
Okay, so he had a few sub questions. I'm not quite sure if you've answered them, but you can let me know. Will working reduce my Social Security benefit? Will I still pay Social Security taxes? And can Social Security increase my benefit based on the new earnings?
No, yes, and yes. No, it won't reduce your Social Security your payment. Yes, your payment could go up because of it. And what was the third one?
Third one was, can Social Security increase my benefit based on new earnings?
What was the second one? That was a yes, but I forgot what it was.
Will I still pay Social Security taxes?
Yes, you will. So you will always be paying Social Security taxes when you work for someone or you work for yourself. That's just the way that it goes.
Okay, great. Let me get back here. Okay, I don't believe we have asked. Sorry, the chat box is moving. Okay. Mobile Communications Network is asking, if you retire at age 70, do you receive the full amount or have to wait for January to receive the delayed amount, 28% in this case?
So what they're saying is you must have a full retirement age is 66 and 6 months or 8 months, something like that, less than 67, because back in the day, you could receive a lot more than 124% of your Social Security payment. Sounds like you're talking about getting 128%. Now, the day you turn 70, you can't increase it anymore. There's no need to wait.
Okay. Star Carrier is asking, what's the maximum a single person can make with Social Security and pension before IRMA kicks in?
Modified adjusted income of $109,000. Okay. Once you exceed that, even by $1, you have to pay the first tier of IRMA. And this is one of those things, you talk about stuff that you think isn't fair. If you pay taxes on your earnings, it's a progressive tax payment. You pay taxes at one rate for a certain amount, and the tax rate goes up for the next amount, and the tax rate goes up for the next amount. But if you make $109,000, if your modified adjusted gross income is $109,001, you pay the full tier 1 IRMA charge. You don't pay 109,000th of it. You pay the full thing. And so it is different than taxes, but the number is 109.
Okay, Money School Dropout is asking, Do I have to be a U.S. citizen to qualify for Social Security and or Medicare?
No, but you do need to be here legally, and you need to be contributing to the system.
All right, G. Barton has an emailed question. He's asking, someone who files for Social Security after full retirement age can request up to 6 months of retroactive benefits. Could a person wait until age 70 and a half, request 6 months of retroactive benefits, and still receive a benefit amount based on age 70 delayed retirement credits?
We asked that question about 2 or 3 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. It must have come in twice. All right. James is asking, a lower earning spouse plans to claim Social Security at 62, while the higher earning spouse will claim at 67. When the higher earning spouse files, will the lower earning spouse receive an increase through spousal benefits?
Well, it depends, I suppose, on the difference between the two payments. But if the lower earning spouse has their own benefit and the difference is big enough, yes, but the spousal benefit will be reduced because the lower earning spouse started claiming their own benefit earlier than full retirement age. And the example I used earlier is if they have $1,000 spousal benefit and if they have $1,000 benefit on their own, but they claim it early at $700, and the spousal benefit at full retirement age is $1,500, well, the spousal benefit would be reduced by the $300 difference, more or less.
Okay, Tony Monero's back tonight and is asking, is there a study or...
I can hear that song in my head from Saturday Night Fever. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Is there a study or published research on the pension percent compared to earnings, trying to see how the bend points are skewing the benefits calculation?
There's probably a study somewhere. There isn't a mainstream study that I'm aware of, but basically bend points are as follows. If you take your best 35 years of earnings, add it up after you index it to today's dollar, so your 1986 $10,000 has a multiplier of 4 today, so that'd be 40,000. You add all of those years up, that's your numerator, and then you divide that by 420, that's 420 months, 35 years. That gives you an average index monthly earnings amount. Then the SSA is not going to give you that, but what they're going to do is they're going to feed it into the bend points formula. And in 2026, the formula works like this. If your AIME is, let's just say it's $5,000, your average for your average earnings in today's dollars was $5,000 a month, you'll get 90% of the first $1,286 of that, 32% of any amounts between $1,286 and $779. And if you happen to have if you're a mega earner, you get 15% of anything over $77.49 per month. So how that actually factors in, I can tell you that the vast majority of people aren't getting that last 15%, but a fair number are getting a large part of that 32%. So I wish I could cite a specific study. I've read so many of them over the years that there wouldn't be one. The one that's really interesting is the University of Michigan data that was used to determine claiming age. Fascinating study. And basically, it says that a large portion of people claim wrong. Either they claim too early or they claim too late. But outside of a half dozen well-known studies, there's probably one out there, but I'm just not aware of it.
All right, great. So next question comes from Carol. I'm 62 and widowed. Can I claim survivor benefits now and delay my own retirement benefit until age 67? Also, does the Social Security earnings test for survivor benefits use earned income only, or does it include adjusted gross income?
Yep. So A couple of different things. First, this is an interesting question, and it shows the duality of the survivor benefit. I always say that politicians generally round down when it comes to a benefit, but with the survivor benefit, they round it up. And so, if a few minutes ago we were talking about the spousal benefit, and the spousal benefit basically takes any early claim you have on your own benefit off of the table. I said that if you made $1,000 at full retirement age of your own benefit, but you claimed at 62, you get $700. That $300 comes off of the spousal benefit. Survivor benefit doesn't work that way. You can claim either your own benefit or the survivor benefit and let the other grow. Now, in the example you gave, you can claim the survivor benefit at age 62 and let it grow until age 70 if you want. And then your benefit will be 124% of what you would have received at full retirement age. It doesn't work the other way around, though. So you can claim the survivor benefit early and let your own benefit grow until age 70. You can't claim your own benefit early and let the survivor benefit grow until age 70. It caps out at your own age 67.
Okay. Glenn Mallet is asking, can you review the loophole with returning Social Security payments to receive higher amounts?
So there are two ways to look at the loophole. If you claim Social Security and change your mind, you have 12 months to do it. You get one shot at that. You can't do it twice. And you have to return everything that you receive from Social Security, including your Medicare Part B premium that was taken out of your check. You have to return it all. And then it's as if it didn't happen. You have 12 months to do it. There's another one. I wouldn't call it a loophole so much as you might call it a loophole. But basically, if you claim Social Security and then you continue to work and you exceed the earnings limits, you're going to have to give part of it back, $1 for every 2 over the earnings threshold before full retirement age, and $1 for every 3 your full retirement age year once you hit the threshold or over the threshold. Well, that money doesn't go away. It's not a gift back to the SSA. It goes back into your account, and then it's given back to you in terms of a higher payment at full retirement age. Because you're already claiming Social Security, you're just giving part of it back. Well, once you reach full retirement age, you don't have to give any of your payment back to the SSA. You can work as much as you want. So in essence, you're effectively unclaiming part of your Social Security. I wouldn't test it. Honestly, I wouldn't. Because somebody's going to make a calculation mistake, and it will be super hard to prove. You'll have to go through line by line, sit in the SSA's office for hours, days, maybe to try to get straightened out with your own numbers. And it just sounds horrible, actually. Your best move is, if you know that you're going to continue to work, just tell them that you just don't claim. But if you do claim, tell them you're working, and tell them exactly how much you're making so that they can take it out.
All right. Rootsy's asking, do you offer one-on-one advice?
No. I left the financial services business 2 years ago, and now I'm a full-time educator. But if you do have an interest in someone who can help, we have a list of people that we often refer to. We receive no compensation at all from the referral. There's nothing, no money at all related to it. But we just want to make sure that you get aligned with somebody that has your own values. If this is of interest to you, just email us at livestream@holyschmidt.com and just say, I'm interested in help with a financial planner, and we'll point you in the right direction.
All right, great. And we are coming up at the top of the hour, but we do have a question from Rachel that just came in. Oh, Rachel, that's more of a comment. Okay, wait, we have one from Scott. When you file for Social Security, how long till you get your check after you've been approved?
Well, if you file for Social Security, the question really is, how long before you get your check should you file for Social Security, or how long before you're due to receive your payment should you file for Social Security. And I would say a minimum of 2 months. You can maximize it if you can maximize it if the avoiding to avoid hiccups if you wait 4, or if you go out to 4. But just know that when you file for, let's say you turn 65 in June, your payment will happen in July. It won't happen in June. So it's a month in arrears. But 2 months at a minimum, 4 months if you want to be diligent about it.
Okay, we are at the top of the hour. I just want to let people know that some of the questions that we put links into the chat box, I have re-put those links in for anyone that may have joined late. So if you need access to a financial planner like Jeff was mentioning, you can email at livestream@holyschmidt.com. I've also put in the link for the Social Security course, Social Security Simplified, and the Social Security quick guide that Jeff held up earlier. I've put the link to gain access to that as well. Thank you so much for all your emailed questions as well as your live questions. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Jeff, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Gang, now next week I am on vacation on Tuesday onward. So we're going to be having next week's live stream on Monday at the same time, Monday at 7 p.m. That way I can get a little R&R and still make sure we get the live stream in next week. Having said all of that, let me thank you, Jill, for your expert guidance through the list of questions tonight. Thanks everybody for participating. If you asked a question and we didn't get to it, I'm sorry. We try to get to as many as we can. Sometimes we get overwhelmed with questions, but we'll, if you didn't get it answered, email it to livestream@holyschmidt.com and we'll put it at the top of the list for next week. With that, I think we're done. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next Monday at 7 o'clock.